Hi, Dave Algio, meter recruiter from the PSA Northeast, and I'm speaking to Cindy Michelle Waterfield today, following our October PSA Northeast event, which was a great event on Saturday, 17th of October, where we met the bookers. And the theme of that event was to get to know really what someone who is in the business of booking speakers is looking for. And we had a lovely range of people from one end, if you like, of the booking business to the other. And Cindy, what I particularly liked about your session, and we didn't get a chance to do a parting thoughts after, hence we're doing a little bit of a more in-depth one, which I think would be really valuable. What I really liked about your session was you kind of blended the two extremes, if you like, together with some insight from your experience over the years in the booking and booking of speakers, and there's a great model there about the percentages of what's free and what's paid and what's the top 12%, which we could maybe touch on, but then also touched upon your current venture, which is iwantaspeaker.com. So just to get into it, it was kind of your thoughts on the event, and then maybe look at some of the key points that you spoke about, and then maybe explore the iwantaspeaker.com if we can.
Okay. Well, the event is always good to go and meet the speakers, the up and coming, who's around, and just give some general feedback, because it's hard enough getting started as speaker. And it's often after 5 years of struggling, the light bulb goes on that somebody should have told you something 5 years ago. So I just kind of make it a bit of my kind of mission to actually help people save those 5 years, really.
Yeah, so 9 years ago I could have done. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, because you're right. You kind of stumble into it and think, oh, this is the business for me. I love speaking, I love teaching, etc. But there is a lot to learn. There's a lot of misconceptions, and you come into it with a lot of preconceptions about what you think it is, and that's been the hardest lesson for me, to learn what it's not. And that's where your model came in, where, you know, the triangle that you talked about, where you talked about the bottom, was it 36%?
No, there's a bottom 20% that actually don't have anybody externally.
That's right. So their events, lots and lots going on, but they don't have speakers coming into them, and that was a bit of a light bulb moment for some of the experience I've had in the past, where you're often banging your head against a big wall trying to get into those, and actually, well, they don't want speakers, they don't want
Absolutely.
And you think, oh no, that's obvious, but it is now. But then you move up, and then I'll let you explain the rest of the model if you wouldn't mind, or you can do it better.
Okay. The stats is, and how it kind of works down, is that in 2014 here in the UK, there was 1.29 million events that took place over a 2-day period, with more than 10 people attending and off-site. So that doesn't include your breakfast meetings, lunchtime, get-togethers, management meetings, team meetings. Does not include any of those. Now, from that 1.29 million events, you can say 20% of those will not have any form of outside person coming in. They're closed. That's it. Out of the remaining, so I'm really bad with my numbers, let's just round it to 1 million for argument's sake. Out of that million, 36% of those will actually be having them for free. So that will be free after dinner, entertainment, training, workshop, leadership course, because of course speaking covers a whole range of areas, and an expert coming in covers a whole range of areas. And that's where most people actually start targeting, is let's go for those. So things like your Chamber of Commerce wouldn't necessarily fall into that, because they're one-day events. However, they do have the 2-day events as well, 3-day expos. So that would fall in. But again, it's free. Majority of the time it's free. And they have loads of people bashing their heads against a brick wall trying to get in onto their books, because they're high profile. But the next interesting part is out of that 1 million, there is a 12% of organisations and events where they do have a budget of over 100,000.
Right.
Now, they could actually spend that just on one speaker, or it might be a range of speakers. But at least they've got that budget, they understand, they know the value that they're bringing, and they are looking for the people who will bring that value. And where speakers go wrong is that when they do approach those organisations, and if their value of what they're bringing is not worth them being in that kind of budget range that they're looking at, then of course you're not coming up on their radar. So for many speakers, they actually only have a small. They've still got if you got 56%, 68, 78, you still got 30%, 22% of the market that you can actually still go for.
Yeah.
And that's where fine-tuning, understanding what you're doing and what your sales funnel looks like comes all into play, because it may well be that your sales funnel is all about the freebie market because you're after a database and growing the sales funnel.
Yeah. And I think that's what was really interesting because, over the years I've developed and I'm developing my content and strategy to appeal, lovely to ideally to the 12%, but being realistic, you've got to start somewhere. And that kind of market where the free speakers has been really useful in just getting practice, getting your name known, getting contacts and referrals, and then getting paid work out of that. And I think you're right, that it's not just point out that being clear about why are you speaking? Are you speaking because you want to be paid directly for the speaking? Are you speaking because you want to highlight a product or a sale of a product? Are you a coach or even a trainer? So it's on the workshop, or a mix of those things. And that was really useful just to kind of get that clear in your head. And for those that attended it, I think there was a bit of a light bulb moment for that. You kind of have different people at different stages of their journey, particularly in the room that day. We had people who were thinking about it.
Absolutely.
People who were more seasoned and at various stages, and those who are probably looking a bit more ambitiously further ahead to the bigger picture. So it's really useful just to kind of get that in context, and I found that really valuable.
Well, this is the thing. That room had right across the board of people at their different stages of their speaking career. And the often thing I find is that when you set up and you wake up with a light bulb moment saying, I must share my information, it's about 5 years later they actually then work out they needed to put in a serious structure, because suddenly they're in an area which they're not totally sure about how they got there, possibly speaking and spending lots of money to get those engagements, which is not giving them the proper return on the investment that they're doing. And you then find that they take a back seat and kind of come out of it for about a year whilst they work out what it is they're really doing. They're the ones that kind of get there and they realize they've got something. Unfortunately, you get a lot of dropouts that 3 years in, because the first year is all full of enthusiasm, the second year is, well, it will work, and the third year is, well, perhaps I ought to go and do something else. In which case, you've just actually wasted 3 years. That's where I get upset, because if they'd actually applied it like a proper business, which is, where's the money? How would I get the money? Who'd be interested in this? And can I sell it? And if I can't sell it, can I use it to sell something else? And if you can't use it to sell anything else, then you might as well just go and join the amateur dramatics, because at least you'll get your turn on the stage and lots of lovely claps and hugs.
And to be fair, it strikes so many chords with me, because I've been in the business now, and I'm not just talking about speaking business, I'm talking about training, because initially it was training, and then I identified that I particularly love standing up in front of bigger audiences, etc., and the benefit of getting work for training. I can identify the naivety, the having to fall flat on my backside because I had no idea. My background's policing. I could do that. You're coming into business, no idea how to run a business or sell, or those kinds of things. So that we have to be realistic, and I think a lot of us aren't. I certainly wasn't. And I think that realism, if you like, is necessary to get real about what you don't know, what you don't know. Find people who are that, have the humility to ask and learn, and then get out and make the mistakes, but keep pushing on. And one of my little phrases that I have on my sheet in the PSA is that if nothing else, I'm going to bore success into submission. And the point of that is that, yes, you can bang away at it, but if you don't keep going with the setbacks, you're not going to get there. You've also got to learn and apply some. You can't keep doing the same thing all the time, but there is determination, there's learning, and then applying new things and keep going.
Absolutely. The PSA and Toastmasters and a lot of the other speaking outfits, they all have a very, very good place. And they will help on the journey. But there does come a time when either you outgrow it or there's nothing you can actually learn. But by giving back, you learn in a different way. And it keeps you constant. If somebody discovers something new, like this blab, you're going to go back and you're going to take it back to everybody there now and say, hey, I found this, which is like the equivalent of the modern podcast, really. But again, it's how do you use this as a tool that you can actually monetize, or it's being effective as part of your marketing campaign? People just start thinking, well, because I've got this fabulous thing to say, people will sit and listen. I can use all these social media platforms, but they're not tying it together. They're not integrating their marketing. They're not actually truly understanding what their message is. And so they're doing a lot of time wasting. And this place is a very great place for time wasting. Same with podcasting when it first hit, and people wasted a lot of time on that too. Yeah. And it's always starting with the end in mind. What is it you're trying to do? Yeah. I was talking to a speaker the other day, and they said, oh, this is fantastic. I'm thinking of setting up a series. I said, so why didn't you do it in podcasting? Why didn't you do it on YouTube if it's already there? I know why I didn't. And because of that, I'm using this place as a full effective to get done what I need it to do. And I don't necessarily need blab, but I'm using this place to actually help me to do what else I need to do, which I couldn't do with the other platforms. Yeah. So it's always starting with a strategy. What is it you're trying to do? And then working back from that. Yeah. And making sure that your time, your effort, what you're throwing your money at, where you're going to speak is all relevant. Because even being strong enough to say, this audience that I'm in front of, is it going to be relevant to what I want to do? And if it isn't, and you're still taking the gig, is it because you're actually going where the money is? In which case you may have to relook at what it is and why you're talking on the subject. Because another thing that newbies actually end up doing is they start talking on, let's say, cheese, and actually find themselves talking on ham 5 years later, which is not really their passion, but it pays the bills. Yeah. When in actual fact, that's when they have the time out and realize actually they're really interested in sandwiches. It's just that, okay, they can talk about ham, but they're really passionate about cheese, but it's still sandwiches at the end of the day. So they're lovely to see when people are actually really coming back to what it is they're trying to do. Yeah. But that journey always starts with the end in mind right at the very beginning, which is, what is it you're trying to do? Is there a business there? And if there isn't a business there, then either have it as a passion or go and join an amateur dramatic society. Yeah.
And I think that's great advice. And it's kind of, for me, an opportunity to plug the PSA as an opportunity. My experience has been that's been a chance to meet people with like minds, recognise and reflect back on mistakes I've made, and then learn from the likes of yourself who attend these meetings and kindly give your content and your information, your experience, which is invaluable. And it can save you time if you're prepared to be open to the message, I think is the key thing. You come along to these things, you can listen but not actually act on them. If you listen and do something about it, even one thing, something's going to change, and that's what I particularly like about it. So thanks. That's a brilliant kind of insight and summary of what you spoke about at the last event. It's probably quite timely because you mentioned about the business and whatever. The I Want a Speaker. I mean, if you could just give us a bit of an idea, a flavour of what that's about, because I think it's quite a really interesting concept.
Well, the concept is I want to make sure that audiences always have the best that they can. I'm giving up my time, be it free or paid, to go somewhere. So I want to make sure that whoever's in front of me is going to be best. So what we did is we created a platform where the clients are looking for speakers are looking for clients, and put them together in one area, which is safe, protected. So it gives the clients the benefit of dealing with the speaker, but with also the benefit of like a bureau behind them. So all the paperwork's done automatically, the invoicing's done automatically, everything goes into an escrow. So both speakers and clients still behave nicely before the event. Yeah. Both review each other after the event, because we all know that there are things that happen both on client side and speaker sides that, everybody gets a little bit unhappy about. But at least by having that protection, then things can relax, which means the audience will then have a better experience, because the client isn't so stressed about the speaker's not quite so stressed about the client, and the audience then gets the best of both worlds. Yeah. And that's what it's all about.
Great. And so how old is the business then? Just from
It's been in the planning stages for 5 years and launched last year, soft launch with working with the speakers and getting the speakers on and making sure the speakers are all okay. And this year has been about looking at the clients and making sure the clients are happy and bringing them on board and engaging. So Great. It's been a lovely, lovely journey.
Great. And I mean, it's one of those things that potentially is a game changer in the industry, I guess. Mm-hmm. because it's not something I've heard of before. And I think you mentioned that you were trying to be something of the speaker world. I can't remember what.
A vertical network.
Right, yeah.
The vertical network, which means anything and everything to do with the speakers and the events, is you come to us. So
right.
We are building the community platform where everything you're blogging content-wise will go there, so people can see anything and everything to do with the speaker in one place. Why would they need to go anywhere else when they can get the full experience there?
Yeah. Yeah, so from a speaker's perspective, there's an attraction there because it's potentially a powerful channel for us, provided we give the quality and get the reviews. And then, like you say, from the booker side, it makes life a lot easier for them in making those decisions. So that's pretty good. So in terms of it, I can see on the screen you've got iwantaspeaker.com as the domain. That's where we, as a speaker, I wanted to register. And that's where, if I was looking for an event speaker, I would.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Is there anything else you would like to share or wanted to say or request from us from PSA Northeast? I'm very grateful you came up because I know you had a hell of a long drive that day, didn't you? To come
I did. It's, as always, if I can help, then just give a shout.
Great. And that's brilliant. Thank you so much for your time again, Cindy. It's been really appreciated. I think this is a great review of the day, great example of the content that we have at the events, and just some really valuable insights from anybody who happens to be watching this who might be thinking about the speaking business. So, Magic, that's great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You've been listening to a podcast by the Guild of Speakers. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really does help us to get our message out. If you would like to know more about the Guild of Speakers, go to guildofspeakers.club or scan the QR code below.